All right, let's bring in Bishop Garrison, co-founder of the Joseph Rainey Center for Public Policy, and Republican strategist Brian Darling, founder and president of Liberty Government Affairs. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
All right, Bishop, let's start with you. Who stood out the most yesterday, and what does the high turnout there tell you?
Well, the high turnout, for starters, tells us all that you have a lot of interested voters in an actual debate and actual policies. And it's fantastic to see in those clips so many of these presidential candidates actually going all in on what they believe as a part of their platforms and policies, what they believe in terms of their actual values and what they're going to be like as leaders. I don't know if any one particular necessarily stood out amongst the others right now. But honestly, I would say that this is a fantastic opportunity for all of the American people to truly see what a future leader of this nation could look like.
Brian, this new Des Moines Register poll has Elizabeth Warren surging into first place in Iowa, leading Joe Biden by 2 points there. How dramatically should this shift Republican strategy?
Well, now there are two front runners. I mean, Republicans are going to have to take a hard look at Elizabeth Warren and recognize that she's a legitimate candidate that's got a shot at winning this nomination, somebody who is going to be a front runner and acting like a front runner and talking like a front runner and being treated like a front runner. So she will start getting attacked by other Democrats, much like Joe Biden has been the subject of attacks for the past few months.
Bishop, to what would you attribute Warren's big gains there in Iowa?
Well, first of all, she's incredibly authentic. She has incredible energy, and she's honestly, thus far, one of the tops in terms of policy. She's an incredibly intelligent leader who's been through these types of tough situations in terms of running a campaign. She absolutely knows what it takes to take over leadership like this, and she's demonstrating that time and time again on the campaign trail.
And Bishop, this month Biden's campaign signaled plans to shift their focus toward the South, particularly South Carolina. And now we have this poll here where he's dropped down to second place. So are these numbers simply reflecting that strategy of going to the South, or do you think this is something that his campaign should be worried about?
Well, I mean, anytime poll numbers drop, I think the campaign should take a step back and try to understand exactly what's happening. But I don't necessarily believe right now, we're still so early. I don't necessarily believe, that this is a reason for anyone to start going all in on a panic mode of some sort. I think Vice President Biden is going to go down to South Carolina. He's going to demonstrate what he has continuously, that he truly cares about the voters there and the things that really resonate with them. And he's going to need to continuously demonstrate that moving forward.
Staying on Biden here, he had some sharp words for President Trump after the president tried to shift attention away from reports about that phone call with Ukraine's president. Let's watch Joe Biden here. Here's what he said.
Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum.
You agree with that, Brian? I mean, what do you think of the president's attack on Biden? Do you think that's a sign that he's really worried about him?
Hey, if I was Joe Biden, I'd be yelling too, because this is a real scandal. The fact that Joe Biden's son amassed $3 million working for a natural gas company in Ukraine when he has no experience in natural gas. He has no expertise in regulatory affairs in the Ukraine. And what did his dad do? His dad was vice president of the United States overseeing Ukraine policy, and he threatened to withhold money. $1 billion in aid to Ukraine if they didn't fire the prosecutor that was investigating that company. I'd be screaming. I'd be pointing my finger at President Trump because I'd be angry and scared that this could end my campaign.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans would be angry as the vice president is, but I think for absolutely different reasons than what Brian just laid out. I think they would be very upset that the president of the United States is targeting a family member of a political opponent. This is the type of thing that happens in a banana republic. This is not something that happens or should happen in the United States. If prosecutors or if a political opponent was coming after any member of Trump's family in this type of manner, he would be livid. He would be on Twitter. He would be in the news cursing and damning that person completely and totally. So for him to turn around and use this as a political tool is just beneath comment.
Bishop, do you think this is something that Democrats have been waiting for, this new aggressive side of Joe Biden?
Well, I think we as voters have been looking for it from all the presidential candidates. I think you've seen it in some. You've seen it in Elizabeth Warren. You've seen it in Secretary Castro. So, yes, I think people are excited to see someone actually truly fighting back with not only policy, but with leadership, with the spirit that it takes to engage someone like Donald Trump on this level.
The Washington Post, they are out with a new article. It's titled, "Trump's Ukraine Call Reveals a President Convinced of His Own Invincibility." All right. Do you think that he is convinced of his own invincibility, Brian?
Maybe. I mean, he's full of confidence. He does maybe think he's invincible. I think that's possible. But I do think that the president recognizes that by raising the level of this controversy into the public domain, the American people can actually see that the vice president, when he was vice president, may have engaged in acts that would have been impeachable had it come out when he was vice president of the United States. Using your power as a vice president to help out your son, to protect a company that was paying his son, that's bad. That is something that would be a high crime and misdemeanor. And I think this may be one of those instances where Trump gets hurt a little bit, but Biden gets hurt a little bit too. Maybe this all will help Elizabeth Warren and push her to the front. But this is not a good story for Joe Biden. He can yell and scream all he wants. It's just not going to help him out in the long term.
And what you just described is exactly what's happening with the Trump family, the Trump organization, and Trump administration. When you talk about emoluments and everything else, what you described is pitch perfect for what's happening with Trump.
So you're saying that Joe Biden may have violated the emoluments clause?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that we know the president has, is what I'm saying, Brian, and you know that. Don't try to flip that around.
But I want to ask you, though, Brian, do you think this is this sense of this aura of invincibility that he claims to have here? Do you think that is a danger to the country in the eyes of the Republican Party?
No, I mean, look at what's happened. The president is upset, and the reports, if they are to be believed, and we don't know what really happened. We don't know what the whistleblower said. All we're getting are reports in the media that have been leaked, so we don't know the facts. But what we think has happened, what we think of the facts are, is that he called a foreign leader saying, hey, you should investigate this. And you know, I don't feel comfortable if there was any quid pro quo, and there's no evidence there was. But we do know there was a quid pro quo with Joe Biden, and that is a huge problem. But I do think the president has been very strong lately and pushing back very hard on these allegations of corruption. All
right, Brian Darling, Bishop Garrison, appreciate the discussion this morning. Thank you.
We need an investigation, Brian.